Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Compass, where travelers and the paranormal meet at the crossroads. I am your host, Eric, and today we are joined by a filmmaker and paranormal investigator who has spent more than a decade uncovering ghostly phenomena across the country, Connor Biddle. Connor's journey into the world of the paranormal began as a child in a Victorian house built in 1862, where he first experienced the supernatural. Fast forward to 2010, and Connor's visit to the notorious Waverly Hills Sanatorium changed everything. During that visit, Connor captured unexplained voices on an audio recorder, launching him into a journey of exploration that has never stopped. In 2012, he produced his first documentary, A Haunting at Farrar Elementary, which laid the groundwork for his hit YouTube channel, Paranormal Encounters, where he is on a continuing mission to connect with what lies on the other side. In addition to filmmaking and investigating, he has authored a three-part book series, Life with Paranormal Encounters, offering behind-the-scenes insights into the eerie places he's visited and the ghost stories that never made it to the air. I mean, really, where does he find the time? Connor, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. How are you today?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Got things a little hectic here, but on track, so I'm happy. So let's get into it from the beginning. So you've been investigating the paranormal for well over a decade now, but let's take it back to the beginning. Can you tell us about that first experience as a child in the old Victorian house?
Yeah, of course. So my family moved to an old part of Goshen, Indiana that we called Western or West Goshen. And my family moved in this old white Victorian house. It's built in 1862. And as a kid, my brother and I used to explore the woods out back and just get into mischievous stuff and just explore the house. And this house had a creepy vibe, but I was about 9, 10 years old at the time. I didn't really know too much about the paranormal, just I don't think any real kid knows about that. And my brother and I shared a room upstairs on the second floor, and I was always scared of the dark. And so my parents always left the hallway light on. My brother and I shared this room, and our beds were directly across from each other in this room. One night, just like any other normal night, I was laying down facing my brother. He was across from me on the other side. And I don't hear any noises or anything like that I recall from this memory, but I see this white ball, almost like an anomaly, an orb of what have you, fly out from above me underneath and over to the other side of where my brother's sleeping at and underneath his bed. And it scared me so bad, I didn't know what it was. I ran out of the room, went downstairs and told my parents, and they brought me back upstairs to my bedroom. And my brother was still sound asleep. There was nothing out of place, nothing abnormal. And my family told me I was probably just sleeping, having like a dream or some sort. And that sort of sparked my paranormal interest. The house had some really weird stuff. Back on the porch, there was like a little wooden porch where you could see down between the floorboards. And I remember seeing this weird room that had just a yellow chair down there, and old yellow stool chair. And you couldn't even access this room down in the basement. We tried to find that chair, and this house just had creepy vibes to it, and it sparked my interest, leading me into the paranormal in high school.
So were there any more? I mean, prior to that, did your parents notice anything, or after that incident, were there any more paranormal, any unusual events in that house?
No, none at all, which was really strange. The reason why it's so weird is because we had a weird door that would connect from my bedroom into my parents' bedroom. That would, when you open the door, it's like a closet, but it's not. We never used it for walking through to our parents' room. We used it as just a closet where we put stuff in the middle and never access the other side. And that's where that anomaly of some sort came from, because it came from above my head. My head was facing this, and flew into on my brother's side of the room. My brother was never disturbed too while he was sleeping. It was just some weird thing. I don't even know what it was to this day. My grandma always told me it was just angels playing, So I always thought that was funny.
That's a grandmotherly thing to say.
Yeah. So
Did you ever look in when you got older and more involved in the paranormal? Did you ever look into the history of the house? What, if anything may have happened there?
I actually went to that house earlier in 2024. I was visiting my family, and I got really curious because I hadn't been near that house in so long. And so I went towards that house, and somebody else owns it now, and they're living in the house, and their family was actually outside. And I asked them about it, if they had anything weird happen. And what's weird is this used to be like a pastor's house, because my stepfather used to be a youth pastor, and the church was directly across the street from it. So the church ended up selling it to some private families after my family left there. And the family before that family that's living there now actually have had some weird paranormal experiences there. But I didn't get a chance to go into too much detail. She was trying to keep her distance from me because she was going through COVID at the time. But she welcomed me back, though, to go back to the house. I plan to hopefully one time soon, hopefully this year, if not next year, visit the house and see if I can actually conduct a paranormal investigation and see what exactly that was that I experienced when I was a kid.
That would be great. I mean, back to where it all began.
Yeah. What is very strange, though, is across the street, my grandparents and my great aunt actually grew up in that house across the street from the house I had my experience at. And I wrote about it in my book and some detailed experiences of what they experienced in that house. And they had heard footsteps marching outside the house. They saw an apparition of a woman at this house. Faucets would turn on by themselves. It was really strange why my first paranormal experience was where my family pretty much first experienced paranormal activity too.
So maybe it like picks one or two members out of your family. Maybe they see it, maybe the other half doesn't. It could be, maybe they're selective.
Yeah, I mean, most likely, yeah. Almost everybody in my family at that point on that street is on Berkey Avenue. Is what that is, and Berkey Avenue is actually who the guy who built that street was named after lived in that house. So, which was really strange, but my family all experienced something paranormal on that street.
Wow, that is a wealth of material and content right there, especially with your ties to it. That would be great.
Yeah.
Most of these old sanatoriums in the country that have been closed and they're out of business, but they're still standing. I mean, it's kind of a given they're probably all haunted, but there are some that are just a standout. And among those few that are just like a given is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It's a place with a ton of paranormal history. So when you captured those voices on your audio recorder back in 2010, how did that moment impact your view of the paranormal? I mean, I know you experienced what you experienced as a kid, but did that make you an instant believer, or were you still kind of skeptical afterwards?
I was still kind of skeptical. I really loved Halloween. It was huge in my family. My mom would always make crafts and stuff like that, and we'd go all out for Halloween. So I always had an interest in it, and I've always thought going to haunted places were pretty cool. Back in 2010, it wasn't as popular, I think, as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
There's major TV shows that are coming out about it and stuff like that. And, and my friends and I were just crazy, I guess. We wanted to go somewhere crazy, and we picked up and wanted to go on a summer trip to Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Yeah, and I didn't have any paranormal experience whatsoever. I didn't have any kind of equipment or anything like that. I simply used my cell phone, voice recorder memo on the phone, and I captured voices of it something yelling help. It was shuffling of feet, some weird things that I couldn't really explain because I was with a group of people. We were on a tour, doing a paranormal tour at night, and I was just snapping photos with my phone, and I actually captured some of the stuff to help back up some of the stories that they had told us on the tour. They talked about a homeless man or whatever with his dog would go on this property quite frequently, and he perished with his dog on the property and fell down an elevator shaft. And they say that they have seen a dog on the property. I took pictures to my cell phone, and I actually have captured an apparition of a dog underneath the piano in the waiting room. Yeah, it was. I didn't know about any of that until we went back to our hotel room that night. It was pretty cool because at first my friends weren't seeing it, and I saw immediately it stuck out like a sore thumb on the picture.
An animal apparition, that is like pretty much unheard of. I mean, a lot of people, with all the TV shows and the magazines and the social media, I mean, a lot of people get orbs, they get shapes, generally human, but an animal apparition, that is, wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, to this day, I've never captured anything animal-wise. That's the only time I've ever captured anything animal-wise, and it was really, really unsettling because it was just a picture of a dog laying down underneath a chair of a piano, which I thought was a really cool capture. You can see the outline of the animal. You can see his nose, his eyes, his whiskers, everything like that.
Do you still have that photo?
I do, yeah.
Well, I'd like to see that sometimes. If you want to
Yeah.
email it to me, or we can actually I can have it when I edit this video. I can put it up on screen if you like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I definitely will send it to you.
That would be an animal apparition. That just blows my mind. I've never seen that. So,
Yeah.
excuse me. So at Waverly Hills. So the voices that you caught was it just random, or was there any type of intelligent communication back and forth?
It was more so like random. I don't know why I was recording. I think I just heard about EVPs and I thought they were interesting. And I just rolled the entire time I was doing that tour with those people and just the most haunted areas. Like we went down the death tunnel. The death tunnel is where I captured something that yelled help. It sounded like a shuffle of someone's feet dragging across the concrete. And, like obviously we're in the dark and there's just a flashlight from the tour guide, but nothing that I could pinpoint at the time of my memory, knowing that they were doing that. My friends were not somebody that would prank me and do stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
either. Throughout the tour, we went to the second floor, which they call the Shadow Man hallway. And I'm sure they do this to
That's not
everybody
ominous.
now. Yeah, no, all right. It's pretty ominous. So if you've ever been to Waverly Hills, there's no windows. Like this place is like
It's on the
no,
bucket list.
yeah,
Definitely on the bucket list for me.
everything is all open, so all the moonlight shines in. It's extremely creepy. I was being rowdy with my friends, and the tour guide pointed me out and some other guy next to me and told me she had a laser pointer, told me to go down in this hallway, pointing up to where the laser pointer was pointing at. And I got to this point where I was walking with this guy with his ball cap, and I was talking to him, and I couldn't really see him, features of him, and I just knew that he was wearing some kind of like what I'm wearing right now. He was wearing a ball cap, and his face was sort of obscured from the light, the shadows from the moonlight. And I remember whispering to him, I'm like, man, this is creepy. And he just nods his head and says, yeah, it is, or something like along those lines. I get down to the end of this hallway and I turn around. I'm like, where the heck did this guy go? Because I thought, like maybe he went to some room or something like that, because by the time we got to the end of the hallway where this laser pointer was at, you couldn't even see the tour group. You couldn't see anybody. And I'm like, where is this guy? And I walk back and I asked my friends, like, where did this guy go that was with me? And he said, what are you talking about? I'm like, I was going down this hallway with this guy, and they said you went down there by yourself. So I thought that was extremely creepy, and that's what really sparked my interest. Was like, who was I talking to?
So when you thought you were talking to a person, I mean, was it lighting? Was it bad, or could you see them kind of clearly, or
No, it was a
was
solid person. That's what was really unsettling about it. It's like night and day solid person, just like you and I right now. There was no transparency. There was nothing like that. This dude was literally right next to me. Like, I mean, he could have touched my shoulder, like he's that close to me walking down this hallway with me.
wow? That's yeah, that's creepy, Connor.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah. I got a lot of creepy stories.
Yeah, and speaking of which, so 2 years later, you set out to film A Haunting at Farrar Elementary, which ended up being the start of your documentary series, Paranormal Encounters. So, what was that investigation like? What drew you to that particular school? And did anything happen there that made you realize that this was going to be more than a one-time project?
Yeah, so I was getting kind of interested more so in the paranormal after the experience of Waverly Hills, and I started watching more ghost stuff. And before this was before YouTubers were a thing. So like when you try to find stuff on YouTube, there wasn't like all those weird thumbnails you see now of YouTubers like going to haunted places.
Still the cat videos.
Yeah, plenty of cat videos, but there was a group. I can't remember the title, but he's been on some major TV shows, and he had his own TV show, and they went to Farrar Elementary Schoolhouse. At the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. My friends had all gone off to college after Waverly Hills, and I tried college myself, and it wasn't really for me. And I had a passion for the paranormal at this point. I was actually getting really into it. And, I felt to myself, like, why couldn't I just film something like Ghostwise and make it my own show? If people can do it, why can't I do it? Just because they have a group of people doesn't mean anything. I kind of got some inspiration from Ghost Adventures TV show.
We all
And
did.
I think everybody did, honestly, back then.
Like the majority of my guests so far, I mean, like I'd say 80% of my guests, they're all, oh yeah, it started from there, and I remember when the show first came out, it was like one or two ghost shows on the Travel Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough to remember when the Travel Channel had travel shows. Now it's all
Yes.
paranormal, which is cool for, guys like us. But yeah, a lot of people that inspired so many people. I mean, so that's a good thing about it.
Mm-hmm. So I went to college and I just basically gotten extra funding from my student loans, and I went out, bought a bunch of cameras. I hired a guy from school that I knew was really good at filmmaking, because I had no idea what to do about how to shoot something, how to even use a camera, let alone anything. I went off and bought all the paranormal equipment I could think of with all this money, and we traveled for 3 days to that Farrar Elementary Schoolhouse, because I saw those guys go there. They caught a locker opening. I thought that was fascinating. I was like, I want to see this actually happen, because they caught it on camera when no one was around opening. So we went there all on its own. It was really weird. Whether it's fake or not, I still had a lot of interest in just doing it. At this time, I was 100% convinced. But I had something happen to me the year before I went to this school. I actually caught an apparition on camera, and that's what actually got me to want to do a documentary. I caught an apparition on camera at this old pizza place I was working at during high school in my senior year. And I was like, okay, there's something weird here, because I feel like I'm meant to do something along the lines of the paranormal, because I had these experiences at Waverly Hills, caught some weird stuff, just not even trying. And every time I would do something, I would get something.
I was going to say, just from your stories so far, we're barely 15 minutes into this, and you're coming across like a magnet, like a ghost magnet. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, you go into a haunted sanitarium, yeah, odds are you're going to see something, but you're at a pizza joint. So it's like, I think you're a magnet, Connor.
Yeah, that's what I've been told before. I'm a ghost magnet. I mean, I feel like maybe I used to, but I don't know. But at this time, when I was first starting out, I felt like I was capturing stuff abnormally a lot, and I thought it was really weird. And anyways, went to this Farrar school, and I was sort of like halfway of like, oh yeah, something's going to happen, something's not going to happen. And lo and behold, I had a lot of weird stuff actually happen. This was the first video I've ever done on a YouTube channel, including putting it public before YouTubers were a thing. This documentary skyrocketed on YouTube. And I caught voices on the spirit box telling me "F you, eat crap," just not the clean version.
Got some hostility there.
Yeah, we had a light do some weird stuff. Our camera light was doing weird stuff. Then again, at this time, I was still very new to the filmmaking, so it could have been something I had done. We actually heard footsteps echoing through the gymnasium. And then when I went down to the gymnasium I think me and Josh, the guy I was filming with at the time, we're getting some water or something like that, while our cameraman Cody was dumping all the footage. And I literally heard a radio going off in the gym, and there's nothing plugged in at all down there. And I caught it on camera. And at that moment, I knew like this was crazy,
So yeah, that and I mean, it sounds like you not only had it's like a calling for you to one on the one side you're a magnet for these ghosts or for apparitions to pop up around you, and very unusual an animal apparition. I'm still coming back to that. I'm still processing that one. And then you were fortunate to meet someone who had talent as a filmmaker, and that's honestly, I mean, I'll get back to these in a second, but I have to say, when I found your channel, I was watching your videos. The first thing that stood out to me about your videos is the production value. I mean, it's like music, editing, pacing, the interviews. It's like something literally off Discovery Channel. It was so professionally done. I mean, you'll see a lot of good ghost hunting videos on YouTube, but yours is like, I got to say, they look really well. They're very good. The production value alone is just like really stand out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've had a lot of trial and error over the years of trying to figure out how to do it.
That's how we all learn.
Mm-hmm.
So now, many people believe that spirits can attach themselves to objects or even people. Have you ever felt like you maybe have brought something back after an investigation?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what place I went to, but I've seen apparitions in my house, just in the corner of my eye, like some black shadow like thing. I've caught weird smiley faces on my bathroom mirror after taking a hot shower, where the seam goes on the window or the mirror. Like really weird stuff. Like also capturing knives crossed over like an X. That's happened twice.
In your house?
Yeah, in my house. Yeah, it's more so my apartments I've lived in, but yes, I've had that happen. I've had that even happen too when I was living in Las Vegas. The person I was living with had a daughter, and she had one of those like princess light up shoes, and they would go off all the time in the middle of the night. My bedroom door opened on its own. Yeah, my light turned off in my shower bathroom when I was shaving twice. I've had a lot of weird stuff. So yes, I feel like definitely I've had stuff come home, and in fact, I don't mind having stuff come home with me because
Really?
it doesn't bother me. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I think if you're involved in the paranormal, you shouldn't be too shy of opening yourself up like that to experience it, because that's how you learn and grow.
Well, I noticed in like you have that one video. It's like your most popular video. You're closing in on 1 million views, where you were helping a couple and they had the pastor's room in the back.
Yeah.
And I was watching that last night. It's really good. It's like your most popular. Like I said, it's closing in on almost 1 million views at this point.
Crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome, by the way, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
And a lot of your other videos are like getting there too, like 300,000 views, 80,000 views. It's, that's awesome, man. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
One thing that caught my eye in that video, because it's kind of like what I find really interesting, is how people protect themselves against the paranormal. And there was one point in that video where you pointed out that they had placed mirrors on the door and the windows. And I'd only ever heard that one time before, and that's from John Zaffis, who is the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren. He mentioned that on one of his old TV shows. He advised a lady, putting windows in the mirrors to deflect anything negative coming at you. And when I saw that in your video, I'm like, whoa, which kind of led me to this question that a lot of investigators talk about protecting themselves from negative energies or entities. Do you personally have any rituals or precautions you take before or after an investigation?
That's a good question. I get asked that all the time. I actually don't do any kind of ritual. I know a lot of people think I should, or tell me that, hey, you should do that when you do places. I think everybody has each to their own. The only thing I really think I really do, I don't really call that a ritual or whatever. It's just more of a respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I leave locations, I always say, thank you for your communication, but please don't follow me home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to even do
Right.
anything, but it's just my own, I guess makes me feel good, when I leave, thinking that, oh yeah, nothing's going to follow me home. But it has happened still, even when I leave places.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I said, it's a roll of the dice. It's a gamble we all take when we go to these locations, especially like people like us. We go to so many different haunted locations. It's like it's gonna happen either way. Now, in your opinion, what separates a truly haunted location from one that just might be the result of local legends and urban myths? I mean, how do you personally determine which places to investigate?
They just happen. I pick places that are available for me. Like I'm releasing a video tomorrow for an urban legend that's based on a cemetery. Never been to a cemetery before, but usually things like that I don't really go to unless there's many people that have had an experience there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that had an experience of seeing an apparition of a girl walking across the street who's also caused car accidents. So there's multiple reports of that happening. That's what helps me determine, like, hey, should I check out this urban legend or not? Because I don't personally believe in Loch Ness Monster or werewolves or anything like that. Unless there's actually a firsthand account and something.
Well, some of us do, Connor. Okay,
yes.
Some of us want werewolves to be real.
Okay. Yes, I know, and each to their own. Some people are more hairy than others. So,
yeah.
but I mean, just factual stuff that backs it up. Nothing really I pinpoint to pick out myself. It just sort of happens of me going to places. And luck of the draw, if something happens there, it doesn't happen there.
So a lot of the times it can be word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth more so. I like to find places that people don't really know about or have seen done before, because I don't like to go into places really knowing too much information, because I think when you're privy to knowing so much information, you unsubconsciously trick yourself into thinking you're having an experience, and I don't want to deceive my audience or make people believe something that may not be happening.
Yeah, and finding a place that not a lot of people know about is getting tougher and tougher these days, because with all the ghost hunting shows, then you add YouTube and all the social media. It's like so many like well-known, most likely haunted locations are just becoming saturated with ghost hunters, to where it's kind of like, okay, so many people have gone there and done that. It's like, how do you find anything new to do with it? So finding somewhere that not everyone's been to it's a much smaller list now these days.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, when you're in the middle of an investigation, how do you know when it's time to stop and call it a night? I mean, have you ever had to leave a place because things were just getting really intense?
Yeah, actually, I just filmed at the Stimson Hospital in Eaton Rapids, Michigan, and I was there a few months ago, and I actually had to leave because my camera supernaturally came off and broke. And I didn't think it broke because of something supernatural until I actually realized I accidentally kept recording on my lavalier, which is my wireless microphone to keep up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I heard footsteps running around. I felt like I was unwelcomed at this place. And that is sort of the only time I've ever been sort of ran out of a place, so to speak. Usually I know when to just be done because if I'm not capturing anything, nothing's going to happen. I don't believe in staying at places all night long past 3 a.m. or at 3 a.m. or whatever. I think
Yeah.
if there is something that's actually going on, it's going to happen when it wants to make it happen because
Mm-hmm.
people experience stuff during the day and at night. It doesn't have to be at nighttime at all.
Right. That was something else I noticed. I think it was you and your friend. Is it Caleb?
Yeah.
Uh, one of your more recent videos, you did an investigation, and you went there at like the middle of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going back to John Zaffis, he's even said that he's like, people always think it has to be at night, like in the movies.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happens broad daylight just as well, and there's stuff that even happens around my apartment. I know happens in broad daylight, but and you really don't see that very much on YouTube. People doing daytime investigations. That's also something else that I really noticed that you do in your videos, which I think is very cool.
Thank you. I like to try to like show people all realms of the paranormal as far as like not thinking that everything is at nighttime or like things don't happen during the day when they do in fact happen during the day. Because when I was at the Asher Walton house with Caleb, we caught somebody talking in that house and there's nobody else that was in the house with us. So like I mean, my first ever experience I had that really was the defining moment that I knew something paranormal does happen in this life is during the daytime when I saw a little girl run across the hallway. That was broad daylight, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I saw that.
Well, I mean, I've been in some really creepy locations, and had stuff happen around me. Me personally, I have yet to see a full body apparition. People often talk about residual hauntings versus intelligent hauntings, and for those of you that may not be familiar with the difference between the two, generally a residual haunting is just you would see a apparition doing the same thing over and over. It's like they're caught in a continual loop. Whereas an intelligent haunting is one that actually can communicate with you. A lot of times, what you see on all the ghost hunting TV shows and the videos. So, do you have a theory on what differentiates residual from an intelligent? And have you encountered both types in your trips and your travels?
Yes, I have experienced both residual and intelligent hauntings. I don't really know what differentiates the two, really, be honest with you, as far as what causes a residual haunting versus what makes an intelligent haunting. I think more so like even after all these years and these places I've been to, I still don't know the answer to that. Residual hauntings, though, I have experienced where I've seen um, like the door opened at my apartment one time, and that could be just somebody trying to open a door and walk through when it was there when they were alive. I think it's more so like we produce energy, so to speak, in our own terms,
Mm-hmm.
where we require energy for our body to fully function. Because you can determine, obviously, you can see the difference between a living person and a dead person, and there's something different about somebody who's alive. And I think when we have some kind of a creative motion, like where we have anger or happiness or this, just whatever kind of emotion that we give off in a location, that it goes back to the stone tape theory where things are sort of recorded and replayed just like as if they were in their time. Then again, there's also too the theory behind multidimensional time space too, where things are happening simultaneously at the same time. So back then in 1862 in the house, when I experienced some stuff that happened there, it could have been in their time experiencing stuff and therefore me causing a haunting on their side.
Wow. Wow, not many people bring up the interdimensional aspect to it. There is a street in London called Bold Street. The name of the street is Bold. And apparently people have been saying for decades that they have seen people like step out of the past, or they themselves have stepped into the past, where like one day they're in the 20th century and the next second they're in the distant past. And it changes and then they come back to wherever they're at. But this one particular street has had this legend for decades.
That's very interesting. I never heard of that street before. I love to go there.
Yeah, I've been to England once. I was there for almost a week, had a blast, and I didn't find out about this until years after I got back. So I'm like, man, I missed out. Stonehenge and Bold Street. So I have a bucket list when I get back to England. So now, with the growing popularity of all these paranormal shows that are out there, do you think the public's perception of ghosts and hauntings has changed? And how do you yourself, with your channel, how do you balance entertainment with genuinely capturing the paranormal?
That's a great question. It's really annoying, to be honest with you, because so many channels popped up out of nowhere after COVID and they're demon this and demon that. And it's
I hate that.
I do too. What it does is it hurts the authentic channels. I like to, I know I'm an authentic channel, but I like to think of myself as one of the authentic channels.
Oh, you are.
And I don't like to show people what doesn't happen. I like to show people what actually happens, whether there's something that happens or there is anything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality of the paranormal, in a retrospect, because a lot of those channels that say I'm caught trapped in a demon house or whatever, demon scratched me, they're constantly having stuff happen all the time, and it doesn't work that way. So
Absolutely.
I know some content creators on YouTube who are okay with making every noise something paranormal and reacting to it and overreacting to it. And I've had some terrifying experiences, but I'm not going to overreact just for the camera for entertainment.
Yeah, everyone wants to be the next Zach Bagans, and it's like he's entertaining, but he's where he's at because he has his own particular style. Develop your own style, and then go from there. So everybody, when I see that they're going out of their way to copy him or some other well-known investigator like that, it's like, man, do your own thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only entertainment that I can think of that I would do different in mine is for entertainment wise. I like to try to put in obviously sound effects when something happens, as far as like when a light turns on or whatever, or add music. But I don't like to add music during the investigation because I like people to be able to hear and feel like they're actually with me in the investigation.
I did notice that with the video, the name of the video escapes my mind, but the one with the pastor's room.
Yeah.
I did notice you did put in just a little ding of music when the light did come on. But other than that, it was just like whatever you heard, whatever you saw. There was no jump cut editing. There was no crazy music and crazy camera sounds. So like I said, your production value is like through the roof. That's what I really like about it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I just wanted people to look at paranormal in a different light. As a content creator on YouTube, I like to show people what the paranormal actually is, whether that is a slow grow for me on YouTube. I don't really care. I don't want to get 1 million subs tomorrow because I was trapped by a demon in a house when I don't actually believe in demons or whatever, So I think that people are so susceptible to seeing that content all the time or at nighttime, like we just talked about. And that's what people expect to see, is things happening all the time. And I think that's just for like teenagers thinking that's cool, like the thrill of it, but it's not the reality of it. That's all entertainment.
Especially because, I was telling someone recently, it's like, I've read several books on exorcisms, and one of my guests was actually, his name's Ralph Sarchi. He worked with the Warrens for years, assisted them with exorcisms and a lot of their cases. And from the books I've read and talking to him, the people that have suffered from possession or if not outright possession, it's in their home and it's putting their family through hell. And then you see these guys that just pop up. Oh, every second video has that in the title. I just skip past it. I don't even waste my time with that. It's like, if you ran into one that often, you would not be in any mental state to even care about making a YouTube video.
Right.
You'd be committed.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So now you've collaborated with other paranormal investigators on YouTube, most recently the guys from Paranormal Quest. Mm-hmm. What did you learn from working with them or any other teams you've worked with, and how did their approach differ from yours?
Honestly, their approach is the same way as mine. They stick to authenticity, and that's what I strive on my audience, including their own audience, and that's why I collaborate with them. They're really good friends, and they have 205,000 subscribers on
Yeah.
YouTube, and they stick right to the authenticity and show people exactly how it is. Not a lot of people like it because it's boring to them, I guess. It's not things are happening every 5 seconds, but those are the only people that I've ever collaborated with, and I probably will only collaborate with, just because I don't trust some of the other content creators, and I don't want to be affiliated with people that have fake stuff or have constant demon crap going on all the time, because
Exactly.
that's not the type of audience I'm trying to build.
And your video was the first time that I was aware of Paranormal Quest, and then I looked at a couple of their videos, and I'm like, okay, yeah, these guys are like pretty level-headed. They don't go crazy, you know, and that's what I liked about it. And they just seemed like you said, you know, they're there to check it out for themselves. If they get something, great. If they don't, they're not going to make fools of themselves. I'm going to go on a couple of tangents here. I like towards the end, I like to really go out there with like possibilities. If you were able to do something, who would you choose, and along those lines. So now, if you could have a conversation with a spirit where they answered one question in total clarity, what's the one question you'd ask to get a deeper understanding of the afterlife or the paranormal?
You know, there's a lot of questions. I think
only pick one, Connor.
I think
Only pick one.
The main question I want to know, though, is like, what do they see? You know, do they see things like how we see it? Do they see things in a third person perspective? Because there's been plenty of accounts of stories of people having near-death experiences where they have seen their body in third person and been floating above them, their own body, and worked on it in a hospital. I just want to kind of like see, like, know like what they see, because I think that would actually kind of help us do investigations, because we would understand how to approach it in a way where they could see it, and maybe it would produce better activity for us on capturing it on camera, because then we would know how to do it better.
So you would, in a sense, you would want to see it through their eyes, see the world through their eyes.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. Now, do you think there's a possibility that some places can attract spirits more than other places just because of natural energy sources like water, minerals, or electromagnetic fields? I've heard limestone is an amazing conductor. We have a large area out here outside of Austin that it's pretty much the entire landscape for miles around is basically limestone, and they have a lot of unusual stories out there where they actually see Civil War soldiers on horseback in groups walking by, as real as I'm seeing you, or Native Americans that look back at them when they see them. And it's not a Native American present day, it's from back then. And it led me to wonder, are they really a ghost, or are they looking to the past and they're looking to the future? But as far as like, do you think any of these places attract spirits more because of the natural energy sources? And how do you think these natural elements play into hauntings?
That's a good question. I think more so desolate places. I know it would probably be the opposite, because energy, everything needs energy in order for it to work. But, you know, I've noticed that there's more places of more activity when it's a desolate place, like something that's sit abandoned for years. But as far as like energy goes, I just filmed with Paranormal Quest for 4 days in a town where water actually runs underneath the ground, and so fast that it creates electricity. It actually has a 0.4 on our EMF meters as far as how much electricity it actually produces above the ground. So I don't really know still to this day if that is even a thing, if there's even something that it needs energy of any sort to create something to make paranormal activity happen. Because I think a lot of people are so stuck on things happening through our man-made science that we have all created concepts of, that this is how things work, when it may not work at all that way in any way in the paranormal. And I don't think there's anything that creates paranormal activity, water, electricity, anything like that.
Good point. I can see that. Now, in addition to being an investigator and a filmmaker, you're also an author. You have a total of 4 books out. First 3 are actually a series of Life with Paranormal Encounters, And this is where you dive deeper into your investigations. So, what inspired you to write about your experiences, and how does writing about them differ from documenting them on camera?
I started that series. It was actually supposed to be just one book, but I've always wanted to write a book because I was dealing with some trauma from somebody who had stolen some of my episodes and my show concept that I was creating back in 2017 and 18 and 19. And I needed to find some kind of healthy therapeutic way to let out the feelings. And also, too, I wanted to kind of tell my story about what all happens to me, because when I do get interviewed or I go and film places, not everything adds up, like as far as bits and pieces. So people don't really know where I come from or what I've experienced.
Hmm.
And I thought it would be kind of cool too to talk about the things I don't talk about on camera, like what I do before camera, like how do I think about things when I go into places, like I clear my mind and leave all the outside obstacles outside of the houses I go to, because I feel like that is a better way to communicate with spirits. Um, or like just what I do like behind the camera, because there's only so much I can show on a hour long video. And that's what kind of inspired me to to create the book series about it, so I could talk about what got me into paranormal, like what I was doing between that time period before the documentary, things like that, just behind the scenes, so people can kind of get a better idea of like why I do the things I do when I'm investigating, or how I work, or where my mind is at when I'm in an investigation. And then it sort of just came to be three books, talking a little bit more behind the scenes and deeper um, words, I guess I can say, than video. And then my fourth book was just a fictional horror book, so it wasn't
Yeah, I
anything to
was
do
going
with
to
it.
ask about that.
Yeah,
It sounds like your first three books were cathartic for you, actually.
yeah, they were. They were very therapeutic for me to let out some of my feelings and things of that I thought about the demon situation, and like what I think actually happens, like when we do die, things like that. And then my second, third book was just more deeper insights into more of my popular videos and like what I was doing or what I experienced days after, or some unanswered questions that the audiences had wanted to for me to answer that I couldn't answer on a video
Hmm.
or create a video about. And then my fourth book, I've always wanted to write a horror book, and I did that last year.
That's amazing. And what was your inspiration for that, for your fourth book, for the novel?
Honestly, it was just an idea I thought about on the way home from work. It took a 30-minute idea, and I was like, wow, I could probably put this together. 'Cause what inspired me was I wanted to incorporate some of my own experiences, my family's experiences, some of my favorite movie scenes into this book. And I just wanted to write sort of about some trauma that a family was going through and how they were dealing with it. And on top of that, experiencing paranormal activity and how they navigated it all the way to the end.
So it sounds like your books have been a real personal journey for you. Like I said, the first three were very cathartic, and now the fourth one sounds like, okay, I want to have some fun with it. I want to like really put my own world together and be creative with it, and
Yeah.
that in itself is cathartic as well. So really, your books have been a personal journey for you more so than a lot of writers.
Yeah, most definitely. It has been. And it's been a lot of fun writing them. They just take so much mental space to write a book. Like, I like to try to figure everything out when I try to do something and do it right the first time. And I put a lot of thought in figuring out how to write a book, so I didn't even know how to even do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's I have like, I love books. I'm a voracious reader, and anyone I think anyone who is such a book nerd, deep down is a writer. There's a writer wanting to get out, and there's a writer
Hmm.
some deep down in me that wants to get out, and I have a few ideas for that as well. And I really like your journey. I mean, it sounds like it helped you so much in coping, like I said, with trauma, and then just expressing yourself. So the artist, you know, within came out. That's amazing.
Hmm. Thank you.
So I have, lastly, Connor, I got like one last question here, and then we can wrap it up and we can find out what you're going to be up to next.
Okay.
So after all these years, your personal experience from childhood in an old Victorian house, then Waverly, then Farrar, and all the places since then, has your perspective on life, death, and the afterlife changed? I mean, what have these experiences taught you about the unknown?
That's a good question. Um, I would say that there is obviously more to this life than living. But I still have this feeling like where I don't know exactly what all is. So it's left me with more questions than answers, really. But it's just taught me to more so like I grew up in a really religious house, and it's taught me that there's more than just a book. A book can only tell you so much than what your experiences can have, and that's why I kind of like do this ghost hunting stuff, is because I want to experience it and not be perceived to be told what happens after life from a book, and try to get my own answers. And I think it's taught me to be a little more courageous than going after things I'm scared of. I used to be scared of the dark, and now I'm in the dark completely in these weird places. Sorry, these
Oh
weird
no,
places.
fine. That's
So
great. That's
yeah,
great.
it's just taught me to chase my fears, the things I'm scared of, and put myself in situations that feel uncomfortable, because sooner enough, I'll learn more comfortable situations of answers, I guess.
You are one of the very few people I think I've met to where pursuing, the paranormal has been healthy for you overall. It's helped you cope with trauma. It's helped you find answers. And you're at a place where you're like, well, I still have questions. And that's a very humble answer. I like that. From
Thank
your
you.
childhood to now, it seems like, you have found your calling. That's great. I really admire that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now, what can our viewers and your followers expect from Paranormal Encounters down the road? Do we have anything coming up that we can look forward to?
Yes. So I have weekly episodes on Saturdays. We call them Spooky Saturdays. I do back to back with Paranormal Quest on YouTube. My videos premiere at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube every Saturday. And I'm trying to go to places that aren't really known. So, like tomorrow, I'm releasing a cemetery video, which I've never done before, exploring urban legends. But I am going to places alone because I feel like you're more susceptible to paranormal activity when you are alone and there's not anybody else with you. It's more of an intimate experience to have. So future
Definitely.
episodes will be more so just me and capturing what I experienced, bringing the channel back to where it used to start off at back in 2012.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, I will provide links to Connor's channel and his social media in the video description below, as well as anything you might see behind me on the shelf. I can add links to that. I usually have most of them in links below as well. Well, Connor, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I was a fan of your channel before. I'm even more of a fan now. I'm a bigger fan than I thought it could be. You're a very down to earth guy, very level headed.
Thank
I
you.
like that.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. Again, that is Connor Biddle. His channel, Paranormal Encounters. Check it out. Follow him and all his social media. Check out his books, the journey he's been on. And once again, this has been Beyond the Compass, where travelers and the paranormal meet at the crossroads. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.